Hello, and welcome to The Porch with Alicia Barlow. Hi, I'm Alicia Barlow, author of The Porch, a place for enjoyment, conversation with people, reflection, and encouragement. Hello, everybody. This is Alicia of The Porch, author of The Porch, and I am here today with Senator George Young of Oklahoma, and I am so grateful that you came and agreed to just join me on the porch and just talk about, the importance of this big day that's happening tomorrow, the importance of voting. And, hopefully everybody has registered that's of age to register and to take care of all of that. And if you haven't early voted, if you haven't mailed in your vote, tomorrow's it. And so, I just wanted to, ask you to come and just, you're also, a minister. So provide some encouragement. And, we don't want to say mix politics and church, because it is separate. But we live here in America, right? And so there are some things that we just have to do. And so, what are some things that you would say about all this?
Well, let me say thank you first for allowing me to come to be a part of this program and to be a part of something that encourages the one thing that all of us can do to make a difference in our lives and make a difference in this country. And so I do bring you greetings from the Greater Mount Carmel Baptist Church, where I serve as a senior pastor. And you're right, there is a separation between church and state, but there's also a connection between church and state. There's also a connection between the state and everything and everyone that lives within the confines of those boundaries of any particular nation, country, city, county. And so it is important for us to be a part of it. It's important to me because I turned 70 this year and I was born and raised in Memphis. I can remember watching the news that evening when Medgar Evers was assassinated in his own driveway because he had been out trying to encourage folk to vote. Yeah. The vote then was something important, even though with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, we got our freedom, we got protection from slavery, and then we supposedly got the right to vote. It is a struggle for us right now to continue to do that because so many people are trying to suppress our willingness to vote. They're not trying to stop us. They're trying to suppress our willingness to vote. And so it is important to me because of a sitting legislator still. I've got a few more days before I'm out of office, and it's important to me that we encourage folk to get out. If you haven't early voted, you hadn't sent your ballot in, it's a little late for that now. Come on and get out tomorrow all day. Be ready to prepare yourself to stand in line, do what you're supposed to do because you are a part of history at this point. You're not trying to make it. You are a part of history. We have our own moments in time right now. I was there in 1968 when Dr. King was assassinated. And you know what? I've got my own Memphis right here in Oklahoma City right now. I've got my own 1968 right here in 2024. I want to make a difference. I want my voice to be heard. I want to have a voice. Voting is one way to do that. And people have given their lives for all of us to be able to cast that vote. And so I'm looking forward to it tomorrow.
Great. Something you just said. You said they're not trying to stop us, but they're trying to suppress us. What do you mean by that?
They're trying to do things to make it difficult for us to vote. One of the things that's on the ballot right now, if you look at it real carefully, one of the state questions wants to change the Constitution. It's already in our state constitution that only citizens of Oklahoma can vote. So why would you need to change that? They want to add the word only. And the reason they want to do that is to put a little doubt, a little fear in the minds and hearts and souls of some folk who might question whether or not they might be questioned why they are voting. Not that they don't have problems with being registered or having the documentation, but there may be some other circumstances surrounding the questioning of them. And so it's a question that we ought to vote no on. I was there in the legislature, in the Senate, when they brought that up. It is a way of trying to get folk to think twice. Should I really cast my vote? Should I really get out to vote? And so it is ongoing, this whole suppression. That's why the John Lewis voting rights bill is so important. It's not that they're trying to take away the vote. They're trying to suppress the vote. They're trying to do things as they did in Georgia when you can't hand someone some water who's in line to vote, when you can't give someone food in line when they're ready to vote, when they're trying to question the validity of mailing in your ballots. All of those things are ways of suppressing the votes to get folk to try and think twice about voting when they ought to be saying, come on in. Anyone who wants to vote, we want you to vote. We want everyone's vote to count. We want everyone to be a part of this nation's future.
What are some things that, for those who have already voted, if they voted early, what can we do or say to someone that hasn't already voted and tomorrow's their last day to do this? I mean, what are some things that we can do to kind of encourage people? I mean, I look at TV and I still hear people saying, I'm undecided. Why are we still undecided? And it doesn't matter, I guess it does matter who you vote for, but the point is to get out there and do it, And so, I mean, what are some things that we can say to encourage people that are still walking that line?
Right.
And because to me, they're saying, I'm still undecided, and they don't want to vote. Well, we don't want you not to vote. Right. You're going to have somebody, so you might as well be in the process, right? Join the process. Don't just sit back and say, I'm not going to vote, because, whether you do it or not, there's going to be somebody in office. So take a part of it.
You don't say, I don't want to breathe. Yeah. And that's important. That's just as important as breathing. It is something that is there for you. It is part of who you are. Voting is a part of our process, a part of our life. We have a right to do that. You were saying a minute ago, and really from the extent that you were operating from when you're talking about the right of voting, the importance of voting. Well, yeah, I'm not telling you who to vote for. Yeah. I want you to be a part of the process, because if you're not part of the process, you are part of the problem. You are one of the folk who are hindering things. This is significant and important. I don't think you're making up these numbers that it's going to be a close race, particularly on the national level for President of the United States. I think it's going to be a fairly close race. And so your vote will count. Your vote will matter. Your opinion of who needs to be in office does matter. You need to express that, because it is not only your right, it is your responsibility. What a privilege we have that we're able to pick and to choose by the vote who we want to serve us, who we want to represent us. And for someone to say, I'm undecided at this late point, that's a little late in the game. You ought to make a decision at this point who you think will best serve your interests. And if you've already voted, you need to be telling folks that, listen, you need to make your voice heard. This is a country where it counts. Those people who have made their voice heard and those people who have cast their votes, that is what we need to be really pushing right now. Encourage someone to vote. Call them up and see if they've gone to vote. See if they need a ride to go vote. Check anything you can to help them to get out and to cast a vote, to make sure that their voice is heard. This is what our country is built upon. And back to what I said earlier, when they try to get you to understand, I don't know who I want to vote for, I'm not decided, or I don't know if it's even worth it. They're trying to get you to suppress your vote so that they will have a bigger choice in choosing who will lead this country.
Wow, that's right. That's right. And so another thing in regards to just getting out there, this is, of course, a national election, but we got to remember there's some state things going on here too. And that's just as important. It starts at a state level. And all this stuff kind of works its way up. So what do you have to say about some of these state elections that's going on?
And those are very important. Those are very significant. Many people would say all politics is local. And so the closer it gets to us as a state senator, as a state representative, when I served in the House, that made me closer to the people. That makes me, being a senator, makes me closer to the people. And it is important that we cast those votes for those folks, because that's where a lot of the things that are impacting our lives take place. I took votes every day on every aspect of a citizen of the state of Oklahoma's life. Every aspect of there is nothing that is off base in the state legislature that we didn't vote on that impacted the lives of people. And so you ought to be important. We have on my ballot a county sheriff's race. That's awfully important who you want leading the county law enforcement system in our county, in your county. You want to make a vote about that because you want to be informed as to who those people are. We have judges that are on the ballot. There's a big hoorah going on about those particular judges and who they are. We need to get out and vote. We need to be more knowledgeable about those judges. Now, those judges try their best not to be heard and seen and known, but we need to make it our point to know who they are, to make sure they're representing us in the right way. And then again, I just mentioned the state question, but there's a corporation commission. The corporation, if you look every time you buy gas, if you look at the meter on the gas thing, there's going to be a corporation commission sticker on there, and those corporation commissioners do everything everything about making sure that the gas is the right way, and that's coming out the right way, that's coming from the right place. That's important. We ought to have a voice about that. And I think we don't do enough. And I thought us as politicians, I was at an event Saturday where I talked about those races, that we need to be more familiar with those individuals, because a lot of times they just slip through, and it's easier, particularly folk who are in office, to vote yes for them again, because obviously we hadn't heard anything bad. Yeah. But sometimes we need to remove some of those folks so we can make places for people who will be even better. Mm-hmm. So it's important in all the races that you cast your vote, not just at the top of the ticket for president of the United States, but for all of those other particular areas. There's some state races on my ballot also. I want to know who's going to represent me. And so it's important to you to know who's going to represent you.
For those who are that haven't voted and tomorrow's it, and they're saying, well, they're listening and they say, okay, I don't know about any of these people. Where can they go to maybe find some information about some of, like the judges or some other things that may be going on that's going to be on the ballot?
Yeah. At this point, if you can always go online and try to find out some information. But listen, if you ought to be able to call your state legislature, it's not too late. Those numbers are listed. They ought to answer your phone calls. Those of you with pastors, you ought to call your pastor and ask them for advice on, if you have some questions about them, see if they have any information. And I've answered over the last 2 weeks, I bet you hundreds of questions of folk who have called me to inquire about those other questions, those other individuals who are on the ballot, and to give my opinion about them and what I think. And so, yes, if you can't find the information online, you need to call and ask someone who you think is at least has some input, has some knowledge about those folks. It's a little late because we should have done a better job of informing folk when we try to do this. This weekend, I was at an event talking about this very thing. And so I've done that over the last month or two, trying to inform folk, trying to put stuff online about the different candidates who are running. That's a very difficult thing, but we've got to express our desire to have better government by being better informed. And that's one of the ways of doing it. And so when I leave office, I'm not going away. I didn't retire. I resigned. And so that doesn't mean I got to feeling too bad about it or it was my time to leave. We have term limits, but I still had 2 years. I resigned because I'm not going away. I'm not running away. I want to have a bigger voice in trying to get folk involved in this process that we call our elections.
Wow. Well, I look forward to seeing what you're going to be doing. You're so active, and so your voice is so relevant here, in the community. And so we really appreciate you and everything. Again, I appreciate you just coming and just providing, like I told you, when I spoke with you, I said, it doesn't have to be long or anything like that, but I just want you to come and just speak and just talk about the importance of this election that's coming up, and tomorrow's it. And so I encourage people to get out there. So I want to say also, if you haven't done it early and if you haven't mailed it in, please find a way to get out there, vote. Polls open up at 7 o'clock. Is that correct?
I think 7 o'clock in the morning.
7 o'clock.
7 p.m.
I was out at 5:50 Friday morning because I wanted to make sure I had my day. So do what you can and get out there and do what needs to be done. And let's get this, let's do it. Let's make our voices heard.
That's it.
Again, I appreciate it.
Thank
you again.
All right.
Thank you for listening and joining me on the porch. Remember to take time to reflect, share memories, and engage with others on your porch. And I'll meet you here next time on The Porch, your podcast for community conversations. Brought to you by the Possibilities Podcast platform.